Another thing that I like to do with my students now is doesn't necessarily have to be sonnets, but if you wanted to take a break on, a play that you're working on, and you wanted to discuss the sonnets, how about putting a summary? If you're discussing the formats of a sonnet, how about having the task of trying to put a scene or an act in a sonnet. Like, well, the prologue is the whole story. Whole story is sort of hard. I mean, there's so many different adaptations of that activity you can do with either having them do a prologue to a play that you're working with, a prologue to a scene, or a summary to a scene in sonnet form. If you're working with creative writing, you can do different types of poems, from limericks to haikus. A haiku would be hard, but that would be fun. A haiku, a limerick, um, maybe just a quatrain, and different collaborative efforts. If you're just working with a play and you wanted to shorten it or put some fun into it, or wanted to them to add their 2 cents. By 2 cents, just add their input into the work. Um, this right here, um, this big beast, Hamlet, to be or not to be speech. So, I wonder if I can. If I can, I'm gonna forward the PDF to you guys. This is the lesson plan that I would bring if I was in person, and y'all. This is y'all. Yours obviously, but I like to break down Hamlet. This is the upgrade from a sonnet for me is a soliloquy. Before we start working on breaking down scenes and acts. So the the first uh, the first soliloquy I was asked to transcribe to a song was "To Be or Not to Be." This is one part that I like to break down with students, and I call this um, the heartbeat workshop. And there's probably no way we can do this now because I think you need your paper for this. But I'll tell you how this goes. We have the whole piece of the soliloquy for "To Be or Not to Be." I break my students into groups, and you can do this also. And this is just another way of getting them to collaborate and getting them to work, getting more interaction in the class. I have them discussing, writing down a number of lines, the number of thoughts, and the number of statements, the number of exclamations, you know, the number of midline thoughts, the number of thoughts that begin in the middle of a line. Um, now this all depends on the version of Hamlet's "To Be or Not to Be" that you actually use. So you may get a different number for each of these depending on the different version that you use. All right. So this heartbeat, I don't know. Has anybody ever seen this heartbeat on the left before?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
No.
So
Wait, you mean for the I am?
for no, this right here is not for the it's for the syllables.
Okay.
It's for the
Yeah.
syllables. Yes. So, and this is just again, this was something that I picked up from a Shakespearean. I don't know how many Shakespeareans do this, but it 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 makes sense and it was great. It was written in verse. I mean, Hamlet's piece was written in verse, and the fact that every line was an iambic pentameter. When you had a line like you can tell when you can tell when Shakespeare or a character was in distress when a line ended with a feminine rhyme or had an extra syllable in it. So to be or not to be, that is the question. Like that 11th syllable, you know that there was a moment of distress in this character's speech. This piece right here. I have 8 through 12. That is, each line is going to be between either 8 syllables or 12 syllables. All right. So to be or not to be, that is the question. I would mark an X right by the side across from that line, to be or not to be, but under the 11. Do you see where my arrow is? And again, I'm gonna try to put this in the chat room, but we're gonna do this. We'll do it again. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer. So that's another 11. So for each line, I would I would mark an X to the left of the line, but under however many syllables there is, I would mark an X under that number, but to the left of that line. Does that make sense? So for each of these lines, they would have an X under it. And and tomorrow when I gotta have I gotta find a way to draw it in, not draw it, but to connect it in. I only have a written version. Oh, I should be able to take a picture and do it. I'm gonna when each there's an X beside each line and under each number, I'm able to connect the lines. And when I rotate it, it looks like a heartbeat. It looks like a heartbeat. So, and this was one, it shows when there's extra, when there's like more than 10 lines, or there's a I mean syllables, and there's 11 to 12 syllables. That line is sort of possibly a rushed line that shows a character being in distress. When there's less than 10 syllables, when there's only 8 syllables or 9 syllables, is that character in deep thought? Is you know is there another action happening? Is there a reason to pause? um, but it also shows the heartbeat of the character. So if you see, if we see the line where, if we turn this upside down, or if we turn this sideways, and the line just looks, all jolted all around, that character, it looks like a character that's in distress. He's not steady. He or she is not steady. But a line where, a soliloquy, or a verse, or a version of role of Shakespeare, where each line had the same amount of syllables, that sounds like that. It had that heartbeat is the heartbeat of a calm, collective person. So you can tell the difference between a person that is um, that's wilding, that's in distress and, worrisome, and someone that is relaxed and cool and collective. But it works you only with not only it works with verse. I haven't tried it with prose, but with verse. In Shakespeare's writing, this is has been helpful in different pieces that I've worked um, with classes and with teachers. Um, how familiar are you guys with Hamlet, to be or not to be speech?
I usually have it on my syllabus. Yeah, we go over
Mm,
it just about every year.
mm, okay. Yeah, Hamlet is a staple to all education. Um, now, so normally what I usually do, and luckily I have some wonderful volunteers, but we can talk through this. Um, Now, if I'm not mistaken, breaking down this piece of Hamlet. Let me. Am I still in share screen? Yes, I believe I
Yeah.
am. Um, this piece has 6 thoughts. It has 33 lines, 33 and a half lines. I usually work all the way up until lose the name of action. Um, when he's talk, I only work with the part when he's talking to himself. Um, it has, believe, 6 thoughts. Has 6 thoughts, and I usually as a man of math, I usually do like division. So I usually break down either by lines or by thoughts, or depending on my number of students, my number of attendees. So if we had 6 attendees here, I would have each attendee break down the thought in their own words. So this would be another collaborative effort of for a group to have their own adaptation of a soliloquy. So now that would give us to get thoughts from everybody. So if we have a group of, let's say we have a classroom with 20, and I put them all in groups of four or five, and let's say for instance, Megan, I'm putting everybody to the spot, so forgive me. Um, Megan, I would have you do, to be or not to be, that is the question, all the way up to sleep, perchance to dream. Well, that is, yeah. Or actually, I would have you do the beginning, all the way up to there's the respect that calamity makes of so long life. Well, you must give us pause. I'll give you that, right? That would be that to me. That's like 1/3, and then uh, Carmine, I would give you all the way. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life, and then that long question, the long two questions. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs that despise love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that nation of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin. And also, the second question, um, who would fathers bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life? You see those two questions? So
Mm-hmm.
that would be part two. And then the third group, Group Leslie, right? You would take us home. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sickly all with the pale cast of thought, and enterprise a great picture moment of with disregards the currents turn awry and lose the name of action. So I want you to keep those three parts just in the back of your mind, because we're gonna use those parts in a second. But with this piece right here, after counting the number of lines and number of thoughts, it's a collaborative effort. You're getting the students to discuss which thought, what is the thought, what is a line, and then we can you ask what did y'all come up with? Why is this a line? Why is this a thought? What makes a question a question? It ends in a question mark. What makes an exclamation an exclamation? It ends in a exclamation point. Um, we can ask them that. Here's an assignment to get thoughts on students. Get your thoughts for students. First off, one activity is just to be or not to be. What does that mean to you? And that's an opinionated question. What Whether you read Hamlet or not, whether you read Hamlet or not, you just want to discuss what does to be or not to be mean to you, right? As a student, right? Another thing, and this is one I want y'all to do, and if y'all can do this you can write this down. First, think of them, and then when you write them down, we'll discuss them. The first thing I want you to do is think of, with this piece, which I will, let me see if I can make it smaller. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Um, with this piece, what are your, what do you believe are the five most important? What do you think are the five most important lines in this speech to you? And when you answer in the chat, you don't have to necessarily put the whole line. You can just put the line where it started, if that helps. Well, this is what we do. First tell me the first. You don't have to tell me. First, think of the five most important lines. When you got your five most important lines, I want you to break it down to your three most important lines. Out of those five that you chose, what are your three most important lines? And then when you have your most important line, please type it in the chat. Now, again, this one is, to ask this question is to, um, yeah, to ask this question is again to open up discussion for students. Um, you want to get, you get you want to get random questions. You get a random tally in, a tally, and you get a feel for the direction that your class is going when breaking down this soliloquy or this piece. What this can be done with sonnets also, you know, but I try to save that for the longer, the harder, yeah, the more difficult pieces, the longer of Shakespearean pieces. But this is to open up discussion, and then it's also to ask, you know, why did you choose these lines? Why do you think this line is important to you? So whether they understand it, the piece as a whole or not, you get their understanding, their mind, their thoughts. Um, it may help out another student with their thoughts, their understanding about the piece. When I put the students in groups, they're all discussing and they're all discussing with each other that why they chose these lines. So I usually do a tally about that. And now also, this is the next thing before we move on. The next thing I would like to do is I'll do the same thing. Um, five most important words. From the five most important words, three most important words. Then from the three most important words, what do you think is the most important word in Hamlet?
So, Devon, in Hamlet's soliloquy or in Hamlet the whole play?
Soliloquy. I
In the
apologize. The
oh, okay,
soliloquy.
okay,
Just bringing down soliloquy.
okay.
Yeah, just like the lines here. Now the lines that are chosen, um, that can help open discussion. The words that are chosen can help open discussion. Whether it opens discussion within the groups that you put the students in, or opens discussion within, you're asking, because I'm going to ask you all, why did you choose the words that you chose? And the good thing is you're not, you're going to get so many different combinations of chosen words and chosen lines that, again, you get, the students are able to break down their meaning, because there's a chance that there are chances that students attend, and I'm talking about students of all ages, they don't necessarily get the whole soliloquy or whole piece, but they definitely get that line, or they definitely get the line that they chose. Because I remember when I first started breaking down Hamlet, which took me, I tell my students my humbleness. Sometimes it takes me 15 minutes to write an adaptation. Sometimes it takes me 2 months to write an adaptation, to break down stuff. Nothing's ever done until it's published. It's all first drafts, right? I tell them when I was breaking down Hamlet, I was more, I understood thus conscience does make cowards of us all. That is my line of that piece. So when I was, still trying to get meaning of all the other pieces, that was the line that stuck with me, and I ran with. The fear of the unknown, the undiscovered country. That's another term that I just stuck with. Um, but I was able to break down that meaning. Some students are able to break down different terms and meanings, but can get help from another student that broke down what to be or not to be means to them, or whether it is noble in the mind. So that's why it's good to have this variety workshop or exercise in a classroom or in a group setting, because then the students can learn from each other, and as a group, in a group setting, the direction that this class is going with the understanding of Hamlet, and the pieces that help them out with again, if I'm getting brought in, they're usually doing an adaptation or some creative writing exercise of based on Hamlet. But this would be part of it, part of the help with it. Um, any questions on this workshop? Oh yeah, I wanted to ask just out of curiosity, why did you choose the 3 words that you chose, each of y'all?
Okay, so I chose suffer, death, and conscience because to me the whole piece is about the decision whether to endure one's trip through time, which is going to involve suffering any way you look at it, or to escape through death. And the decision is complicated because we don't know what comes after death, and that means having, to use another one of his words, respect. Respect means looking at and being aware of and considering, oh, goodness, what's going to happen? If I do myself in, will that really be the end of the suffering? Or will, something even worse greet me at the other side? Um, and your awareness of that, your conscience, complicates everything and makes you afraid. I guess you could choose coward too, but it's a result of conscience.
Conscience does make cowards of us all.
Yeah.
Elon, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be a little bit briefer. To me, the whole soliloquy is about, questioning life, the value of it, and of course, yeah, as Carmen said, what comes next? Like, is death worse? Um, and then the word action, because I feel like the entire play is about inaction, and so I feel like that's just really important there. Do I take the action or not? That's the persistent question with Hamlet.
I like that y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not muted. I like that y'all picked action and suffer. Those were 2 that I've been looking at, but wanted to go do something a little different. Since y'all had already selected those, and they were really good choices. So obviously, the whole thing's about death. I don't think I could leave that idea out. But the idea he's debating this, it's a question to him. It's an issue he's not resolved for most of the play on, not just this soliloquy. But then the idea of resolution, he says that at one point, and the whole soliloquy is him trying to decide, how resolute is he on this issue of dealing with the pain that he feels. Is he going to end it, or is he going to keep going? And so he doesn't reach a resolution by the end of the soliloquy, but it's all about his mindset and trying to grapple with forming a resolution.
Mm. And resolution, that's for some reason that stuck out, maybe because I don't know. I do these puzzles where it's like, what word doesn't fit? I do these little weird logic puzzles. So it's just, it feels like resolution doesn't. But the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, when working with classes and you get that one student that has that random word, you want to say thank you for choosing that word, and you want to get that student's input, because that student has something to say that can help out the group, and it provides inclusion also, just in case that student maybe not be inclusive. It may encourage that student to be more inclusive. Different things I used to help. Now, when writing in class, I'm writing down, I'm tallying all the words that are being used, and then possibly a summary, and another activity that can be used that I'm not going to do here, but an activity that can be used is the students can write a summary of this part. And this summary this can be with me. It's always rap is always incorporated. Rhyme is always incorporated. Or creative writing doesn't necessarily always have to be creative writing. The another way of getting creative with them. I mean, not like writing like in prose or writing in song form. It's having them write a summary, but they have to include 10 of the 12 words that have been added, that have been written down from their own class, their own fellow class mates. I have a paper that has it's called ball words or ball game words, where there's like 20 to 30 of the most important words that are in certain plays, from like R&J to Hamlet to Love's Labor's Lost, and then they can write a summary or write their own. You can either have fun where they have a summary, write the summary of the play, and they have to incorporate some of the words that either were added from like the words that I had y'all add, or the 20 to 30 most important words that are in the play. Um, or they can write their own story that doesn't have anything to do with it, but they would have to include the words that you use. Does that make sense? So make your own story, but you have to use question, die, dream, life, action, death, suffer, consequence. So these are different ways of incorporating. Getting with me. As you can see, I always try to incorporate creative writing and try to get them to think outside the box and get them out their comfort zone. Um, it it helps. I don't know if I'm able to encourage them, and I feel like I'm intimidating, so I know y'all can encourage them. By the way, my three words were be, conscious, and death. Those were my three words. Um, my line is conscious does make cowards of us all. But I'm always intrigued with to be or not to be. When I get to get a student just to riff off of a saying. So just to have them just write a lyrical exercise. I give them a line. To thine own self be true, which I believe that's Hamlet also. What does to thine own self be true? What does that mean to you? Oh, that was a rhyme. Didn't mean that. But in 8 lines or in a verse, what does that mean to you? And that we could either be breaking down the soliloquy that Laertes is saying that. No, it's not Laertes. Polonius is saying it.
Polonius.
Polonius is saying it, or just different idioms and different sayings that Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? I can have, or no, thus conscience does make cowards of us all. I know I keep going to that line. I just love that line. But what does that mean to you? They know what a conscience is. Does it? What does that? How would you say this? How can you reword this? You can say it in paragraph form. That's something that people use for essays. You can get creative, make a whole song out of it. You can make a poem out of it. This you can have a collaborative effort with somebody. You can act it out for theater educators. For English classes, is you can get creative as having writing in verse or writing an essay or a paragraph to it. So either you can break down. We can use this exercise. Say if everybody had, you asked everybody to write their most important lines, and for the most part, everybody had the same line. This must give us pause. There's a respect that makes calamity. So if everybody had that line, if there's a respect that makes calamity is so long and like, then you can freestyle. Now by freestyle, I mean you can adapt and improvise and just and have them write a four stanza poem about that line or about that quote that saying. Um, yeah, these are little tactics that I use to keep them engaged, keep them moving with Shakespeare, and keep that fear, keep the fear away from them. I'm always learning with them. even if I think I know what it means, because that from my research, even Sonnet 130, I tell them they can anything that they tell me can be a reason that I have to do more research, because there's experience that have been doing research on the same plays for like 20 years, because there's still more to discover. So don't be afraid to share your answer, because there have definitely been students that have given me some ideas on how I should present a poem or play. And I'm still a novice, when it comes to Shakespeare. So I'm saying, for me, it's like if I can do this, trust me, if I can do this and break down Shakespeare, you definitely can do this, and you have the theater background to make this happen. And another reason why I get my students for finding a verse, as a teacher of color, when working with students, um, especially working with students that's based on Shakespeare, I've gotten from, and I'm not gonna say just students of color, but students will come up to me and say they haven't found their part or found their role. This is like the first steps to writing your own piece or finding your own role or making it your own. Shakespeare is going nowhere. I found a way to connect Shakespeare to Brooklyn. I found a way to connect Shakespeare to the students that I needed to connect them to. When I did a workshop in Morocco, I found a way to connect Shakespeare with the students in Morocco. I would do it in your nation, in your country, in your region as well. Shakespeare did a lot of adapting in his work. He studied a lot of Italian, a lot of Latin work, and he did a lot of adapting, and again created a lot of work, a lot of words, a lot of idioms to connect to his audience. He switched from verse to prose to one to connect to his to give his actors a more comfort level. Um, some of it is easier to memorize. I believe it's easier to memorize rhyme. That's why I like when he writes in verse. I know Alabama has their own slang, their own lexicon. So yeah, it's about making it your own. That whole connection with writing. So I gonna have to put y'all to the task, but this is gonna be a continuation, I guess. Will y'all be joining tomorrow also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this would be I guess this would be the beginning, and it's a good thing because there's only three of us. There's usually like six of us. I usually break down Hamlet. Am I sharing yet? I usually break down Hamlet into like six parts, but now we've done three parts, and since it's just us three, so again with just like Sonnet 18, not only do I have my own version of Hamlet, I have a Hamlet remix. I think I told y'all a Hamlet remix, Sonnet 66 with a Hamlet remix. That I would love to do. Um, I may do Hamlet by the end of today, and then say 66 for tomorrow. But just like how we did Sonnet 18, this is a more in-depth workshop. I'm a more in-depth activity. We're gonna have our fingerprinted adaptation of Hamlet. Now, this one doesn't have to be a rhyme. This is right here is just have to put it in your own words. Do you remember the parts that you had?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Devon,
Hmm.
shall we? So this is blank verse. So there is, like you said, there's no rhyme. But should we stay with the same number of syllables? It's in iambic pentameter,
It, it
with the
uh,
occasional feminine ending.
I, this the thing I like with creative writing is I'll always try to throw a caveat in it. Doesn't have to rhyme. I just would like it to be in iambic pentameter,
Yeah.
in your
Okay.
own words, in an iambic pentameter.
Okay. So when we start with a half line, um, like
I to sleep.
yeah,
Hmm.
there we should probably respect the four syllables there. I, there's the rub, or to
Hmm.
die, to sleep, and keep it to the same syllable, so that the end product will be the same. It will be in the same shape as the original, except a pair of.
Well, the reason why, and let me see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can put this. I'm gonna unshare screen real quick. I'm gonna see if I can send this PDF to you guys, because you can practice the heartbeat thing, the heartbeat activity. But when you look at it, not every line has 10 syllables. That's what makes this piece
Yeah.
so great. Because every line, there's some lines that has 8 syllables. There's a couple that have 11. There's a couple that have 12. Because Hamlet is all over, that speech. He's all over with that. But so that would be a good challenge, because since every line is not not every line has 10 syllables, it's up to you to not only reword it but then make it 10 syllables.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Now there's infinite ways of creative writing, and just this infinite ways of writing an essay, writing a song. I like to, again, if I see a cool way of saying a line, or the way I know I want to say a line, I will put that line down and then just try to work around it. Like, for instance, when I first wrote this, To Be or Not to Be, for some reason I know I wanted to go, to live or die. That is the question. I knew I wanted that, just that, to live or die. And then, since I knew I had to rhyme, I just did, one is good, the other is depressing. So question, depressing. So yeah, it was a little filler line, but I just knew I wanted that, to live or die. And there's other places that I will share with you guys when I did these. So instead of there's the rub, I wanted to say, but there's a catch. But there's a catch. In death sleep, who knows what dreams might be attached. So that's the there's a rub, for in that sleep of death where dreams may come. So I knew I wanted to say, but there's a catch, just like instead of there's a rub, that's the way we would say there's a rub in modern language. Um, I don't think I've never used but there's a catch ever in my life. But if I ever would use there's a catch, I would say it like that. But there's a catch. So yeah, if there's like clever ways, or a way that you will want to say a line, I will put that line down. Um, yeah, yes. And again, this one is, again, we're gonna discuss rewording it. So first things first is, don't even worry about the syllables. I just want you to think about how would you rewrite it in your own words. So don't even worry about the syllables. And then from there, we will add and subtract. We will adjust. Again, it's easier to edit the lines that you have. I find it hard, even for me, I'm a writer, to try to like come up with that line in 10 syllables. Your brain, my brain gets scrambled like that. So we're gonna do the tedious way and do it step by step. We're gonna continue with the to be or not to be speech. I'm gonna give y'all an example, just like how I did with Sonnet 130. But before we do that, I do a combination of creative writing when I come into classrooms working with Shakespeare, and I do open mic in the beginning of class. So this will be our lyrical exercise for the day. Uh, I know I had you write in 4 lines introduction to yourself. Can you give me in 4 lines ABAB format? Do you remember that rhyme scheme? ABAB. First and third line rhyme, and the second and fourth line rhyme. Could you tell me your favorite character and your favorite play of Shakespeare? That would be our icebreaker.
Ooh.
Now, when I bring this is when I bring this to classrooms. This is usually in a collaborative format. Either you have the options, either working by yourself or working in a group of 2 or 3, to discuss and excuse me, help throw ideas. But and they'll get a shorter time since they able to work in groups. And I usually put a beat on just to make it more fun, and I'm going to do that now. And just because there's a beat on and I want it in a rhyme scheme does not mean you have to rap it. This is just to music is just amazing to write to. So, does everybody understand? All right, I'll give you a couple minutes for that.
So we're doing our 2 line intro of ourselves, or is it 4?
4-line intro, yes,
Favorite
Okay.
character in
and
play?
yes, in A B format. That will be our icebreaker for today. couple more minutes. All right, I like the yeah. Since I do a writing workshop, I like to get the juices flowing since they know they're going to be writing soon. And this is just a little lyrical exercise and a little icebreaker for the beginning of each creative writing workshop. Would anybody like to share?
Sure, Devon. I'll put mine on.
Oh yeah, it could be either through chat or
I'll put it in the chat and I'll read it then.
all right.
Ready. My favorite character is old Iago because he thinks he's evil, but he ain't. He just suffers from a fragile ego. Without that flaw, he could have been a saint.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I think I had some. Yeah, I love Shakespeare. I read them all the time. A pro in verse or when converted in prose. My favorite character is Touchstone, and when he speaks in rhyme. But my favorite play will be Othello. Is always Othello. Ah, thank you
I
for sharing.
totally did this wrong, Devon. I'm going to throw this out there. Okay. Thank you, Megan. Yeah, I wrote a 4-line intro about Leslie, and then I just wrote down my favorite Shakespearean character. So sorry I didn't
Oh
enter mine.
no,
Okay.
I gave options. So.
Okay. Thanks for the flexibility. So mine is Leslie Warren. She cooks, she reads, loves cats, teaches at Jeff State where she directs plays, lives in Pell City, but don't repeat that. Great taste in shoes, no matter what her hub says.
Uh,
And I think my favorite character is a tie between the dark lady, Lady McBee, or Erin the Moor. And obviously, I like the evil ones.
I literally can't decide.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough.
I
It's
mean,
tough.
I don't really I don't have a favorite play. I don't have a favorite character. It's just I have a favorite play for X. I have favorite characters in terms of Y. But if you just say what's your favorite, I'm like,
I just, for my students, I like to point out that Aaron the Moore maybe told the first your mama joke.
yeah. Yeah.
Villain, you've undone our mother. Villain, I have done your mother.
Yep.
I know.
I love
Well,
to my students.
well, Helen, to add on, the reason why I gave those answers is I was going to focus on Hamlet since I was going to do to be or not to be, and then we're going to do tableau. But say if you were like working on like a play, like I tried to make it generic, and I know even for me, like writing it 4 lines, I wrote about 20 lines because I had like 3, 4 characters I was trying to write also. So I understand where you're coming from when you lock into Shakespeare. But like say if you're focused on a play, um, and you bring them in, and I know teachers have swabats. Is that what you call them? You know they students will be able to. They usually have to do like a little journal entry or a little activity while teachers take attendance. This could be something like if you're still working on a play, you can have in a quatrain or in 2 quatrains or in a different format what character of the play they relate to. Who you can have them describe a character in 8 lines just for fun, just to you know they they have to do the whole thing is it's hard to describe a character just like it's hard to describe your favorite Shakespeare character in 4 lines. So they're gonna have to do some. Yes, Megan.
You're
All
on
right.
mute.
uh,
I didn't want to interrupt you, but
no,
I
no,
can also see this from a theater perspective, like combining this kind of with a Uta Hagen, where you just do a little, okay, what was the character doing before? Write me a quatrain about that, and then write me a quatrain about, what you think the character will do next or how this would impact. But doing like a brief but very creative character study, I think that could be a good theater practice as well.
yes, and there's definitely different variations. Like you can have them create their own the next scene or what they think, just like you said, what they think is going to happen next. Or this could be a summary um, of the previous scene or act that they just seen, or a summary of a speech or something like that that they had to do for homework, right before you get back into to the study. So but yeah, since we was focusing on Hamlet, I like if we were still doing Hamlet, I would say, you know, uh, give me a character they relate to, or how do they relate to Hamlet or not relate to Hamlet in a certain amount of lines. And again, I would give them the option of working by themselves or working in groups, or for sometimes I might put them in groups, just for they can do a group study, and it does take some research to try to condense what you want to say creatively in 4 lines. I add music just for options, and it gets it I actually brought this from when I had my students learning science and teaching math, and it gets them from the that thought of, oh, I'm doing work, to, oh, I'm having fun, but they're still doing work, studying Shakespeare. So yes, thank y'all for sharing. Uh, so yes, we're gonna continue with the Hamlet piece, and I figured since I always have I'm usually talking, and I'm usually getting my attendees to present, and uh, a lot of this is inclusion and also presentation. And one of the reasons why I mean I know that eh, I don't know if there's breakout rooms here. If there are breakout rooms, we can possibly make that happen. But I usually put students in groups because there's some students are not that are not willing to perform, which is totally fine, because As much as I love theater and love all the roles that I've had in theater, I know my role is in the background writing. And sometimes you know you can write for other people. You can you can write for a presenter. I have written songs that have been presented from other people. So there are other ways of for participation from all students. That's this is what we do. We'll continue with I was already, we'll continue with Hamlet. I'll give you my version of Hamlet. Um, I'll share my screen and show you. You know, we chose a moderate speed beat, but it's definitely verbatim. And the fact that it was in verse, it was what helped me out with um, with how to transcribe it to music. And from yesterday, and just to let you know, it's again everything I do with the Sonnet Man is you hear Shakespeare verbatim, then you hear a translation. Now the second verse, the way I um, was trying to translate the verse was that I was using some of the same exercises that I had you do yesterday. What were the five most important lines that I thought were important that people should know about the piece, all the way down to three, and then the most important line. And that helped me with how I said the line, how I translated it, um, and that's also what I do with the sonnets as well. So that's the reason why I had y'all go through that exercise, and that's part of the way I get my students to do adaptations, whether they're writing their adaptation the way I do it through rhyme or presenting it in a play or you know excuse me, just rewriting it, just modernizing it. So yeah, that's the reason why I put y'all through it, and y'all can do it in your way after you hear my version. So I tell um, my students that um, transcribing and speaking in verse to a beat, I like to create metaphors. I was like, it's like double dutch. Have you ever see somebody rapping and they have like a pattern or cadence? They're bobbing their head and they're trying to find when to come into this contemporary beat that has a loop. And that's sort of the same thing when you see somebody's trying to jump rope. They're like bouncing back and forth until they get in the loop. Um, Sometimes, when you have a steady pattern, a steady cadence, and that's when I was talking about when Shakespeare's in the iambic pentameter, and every line has 10 syllables, or every line has the same pattern of syllables. It's easy to stay in the same flow. But if you become in distress, if you trip over the rope, or if there's an extra line, sometimes you may have to pause or say something fast to keep up, or say something slow. So it's all about pace. Sometimes you may have to start over. If you ever see a rapper or a poet just try to stay on the beat, they have their head nodding to the beat the same way a jumper is on the side of the jump rope trying to waiting to get into the jump rope. So I that's the metaphor that I have with my students. I don't even know if jump rope is even popular anymore. I don't know what they do, but here we go. Here's Hamlet. um so and also when I was talking about this heartbeat um, exercise that you can do with your students. This was part of the this also helped me with my delivery, with how I transcribed it to a beat, and how I presented it musically. This helps out. Like I learned this from Stratford Shakespeare, and this actually helps out with actors when they're practicing their speeches. Helps out with the mood, helps decide the mood of the character, helps decide if the character's in distress, if the character's in thought, taking a pause. And it helped me musically, just how I would present it, the inflection, my thoughts when saying it. um, yeah, so this is also would help with discussion in your classroom. be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to, 'tis a consummation devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, where dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity a so long life. But who would bear the whips and scorns of time? The oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietance make with the bare bodkin. Who would fathers bear to grunt and sweat under a weary light, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sickly all with a pale cast of thought, an enterprise of great picture moment, with disregard the currents turn awry and lose the name of action. Now, that part I just leave up to that part. And when working with students and trying to get them to put this to a beat, let me take this a beat real quick. I Another exercise I have them is when they trying to find the mood of a certain piece. It doesn't necessarily have to be or not to be. I just went with the Hamlet theme for today. But another, especially a lot of musically inclined students, or if you would like to try to turn this into a musical, I get students to try to find the beat that describes the mood of the character. So that's another uh, exercise. Now this second verse is going to be sort of what we would divided Hamlet into three parts. We can divide it into more parts to make it less. That we're going to be doing. This is the translation, and hopefully you can get some of the parallels. To live or die, that is the question. One is good, the other is depressing. Is it nobler to suffer the bad things thrown your life, afraid to get your troubles and get putting an end to them all? Fix it all before taking a fall. Dying, sleeping, that's all dying is. A sleep that ends the heartache that life give. Alive for that reason, I die for achievement. To die for sleep, to sleep just for dreaming. But there's a catch, in death sleep, who knows what dreams might be attached. And if they get attached, it's a reminder on how reality can find us after we put this morality behind us. That's something to worry about. Those thoughts that make us stretch our sufferings out, to the thought that thinking death is coming around. Stressing on something I know nothing about. Who will put up with all of life's embarrassments? The abuse from superiors and management. The disrespect from men with arrogance. The pangs of a love unanswered. The incompetence of the law. The lack of courtesy of people in the office. And the gall, good people take them all. Would you take your knife out and call it quits? Who would choose to let loose and sweat through a life worn down, unless something dreadful after death makes the thought of fear emerge? The undiscovered town where no visitor returns. I wonder, without getting answers, it puzzles the will. Rather stick to the evils I have than fly to ones that I know not of. The fear of death that makes us all cowards. Think about it too much till it attacks your mind, till you become weak. It's natural. And actions of importance and substance fades and lose the name of action. Hamlet. So, um, now this Hamlet piece was a piece again that I was asked to create for a teacher just to give a different understanding for this class in New York, and the way this workshop worked for me, and this is how I connect my occupation with vocabulary, getting students to write raps about science and other subjects, is the fact that they have to do research. And coming from New York, we created this. I created this Hamlet piece, um, along with a couple of other adaptations of scenes. And my students were like, we can write better raps than this, even though they liked it. They was like, we can do this. And so the homework was, okay, well, write an adaptation or a summary about this piece, to be or not to be. Now, and they brought their thesauruses home. They went and checked. I gave them the website rhymezone.com, because I can give you the words that rhyme. It's up to you to make it sound clever and sound, you put your swagger, your traits to it. So, but they all came back with different summaries, and they had to read Hamlet, and they had to, make sure they understood what he was saying in order to write this adaptation. Now, um, when they was doing it by themselves, the solo job was great, because they were so into it, and I had many fans of hip hop and fans of music. When presenting this in a classroom, like what we're going to do now, I'm going to give y'all the task of doing a collaborative effort, just like how we did Sonnet 18. But to have them in a group, it feels more inclusive. I don't feel like it's much of a burden to students, but you know your students better than anybody. So who you can challenge, who you can pull away, who you can pair up, who you can pair who with, who's gonna um, help the other student along, who's going to do an excellent job by themselves. So there's different ways that you can set this up. And if you're if this is theater education class, and you work on a play, you can have them break down their characters in this way. But yeah, this is a way to for research, for writing, and for presentation, and to have fun. Working in groups, whether you have writing, there's usually at least one person that's going to go up to be able to present and share. And after the sharing, whether the adaptation, song, rap, however, the summary is good, or needs some musical tuning, you can also always discuss why did, just like how I asked y'all, why did you choose these certain lines. You can ask them, why did you say this particular line, why did you say it in this way, who participated, where did you get this scene from. You can choose the every student is going to have every group is going to have something more important, or something that they think is more important, or something to share in this condensed version. So now I performed it because I just wanted to give y'all just an example of an adaptation. But another thing we can do is get students to read read it um, by each period. So just call on students once they read one statement. You can go to the next student and have each student break down um, a statement. I divided it by three just because we, the number of people we had. But does everybody remember the parts that they had?
Yeah.
I had the first 13 lines or 14, I think.
Yeah. And then I had from there's the respect to know not of.
No, not up. Okay. And who had the last part? And if we want, we can leave a part. Well, I'm not sure if Jason, come back. But I'll have something for Jason. And so, um, yeah, uh, another another method that I use is you can either do line for line since this was in verse. Um, you can do it by statement. You know, um, the thing with these statements, some of these statements are 6 lines long, so that's why I began line for line. First, I began with statements, and if the statement was short enough, I would say it the way you know, I felt like it should be said. So like, there's a rub, but there's a catch. Um, but I know we have some writers in here. I know you have your own methods, so feel free to um, put in your way. And rhyming is uh, optional. The first step for me is just to put it in your own way, just to say the statement in the way you would say it. It's okay if I give y'all 10 minutes and ask y'all questions after that.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Oh yeah, wanted to know what was your thought process when you were writing these pieces, writing your part.
So you when you paraphrase, you really have to decide what whose voice are you going to use? Because it's not like we all have one voice. I think all of us speak in a couple of different voices, maybe a couple of languages. Um, and is it going to be formal? Is it going to be informal? Um, and that's one consideration I had.
Hmm.
I feel like mine's a
Thank you.
little bit more informal because when I would write something like this, I would think of how I would demonstrate it for my students and that it's really not as intimidating as they might think it would be, and just focusing on retaining that core idea that Hamlet and Shakespeare is trying to express, and just
Hmm.
making it their own, kind of personalizing it and putting it into more modern terms. So I can definitely see like the fingerprint on each of our submissions.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I wanted to hear it live, all three pieces in succession. But I think Leslie left.
Okay, she
Well,
sent hers in the chat.
okay, yeah, I can.
hmm
Let me see, I can read it. Yeah, I can read her part.
Do you want me to read mine first since it's the
Uh,
first section?
yes, please.
Okay, so to live or to die, that's the real issue. Are you a better person for taking it, all the pain and crap that life throws at you, or to fight against it a different way by ending it, dying, just sleeping? This sleep is the absence of the constant pain and misery that comes with being human. This peace at completion is what we really want, to die and sleep. Who knows, maybe to dream for eternity. Yeah, but that's the problem, because not all dreams are good, and there's no way to know what comes after life. The unknown makes it a risky move.
And then mine, Devon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the that's the worry that makes this life drag on so terribly. Who would put up with the torments of age, the crimes of the powerful and braggarts, love and its pains, the slowness of the law, the strutting authorities, and the wounds that innocents suffer at the cruel hands of brutes? when we might leave all this behind with a clean, shining knife? Why should we bear such burdens and labor so pointlessly? It is the fear of what comes after death, that foreign land from which no traveler comes back. Yes, that is what so frightens us, and makes us take our worldly burdens up again and run from torments yet unknown.
So our own guilt and shame makes us all afraid. Therefore, our natural determination is weakened by our own doubts, thoughts and doubts, and important endeavors and events are ruined due to self-destructive minds, and we lose all purpose. It's a great adaptation for our Shakespeare project, March 12th, 2021 class.